Introducing Picalo Auditing Software version 4.21. What is Picalo version 4.21? The Picalo application focuses on fraud detection, corruption, and data extraction from corporate databases. Picalo is also the foundation for a fraud detection system that is automated. Auditors, fraud investigators, data miners, and other analytical data users will benefit from this software.
We can input data in Picalo through two different methods. First is the new database connection and the second is the import function.
Importing through new database connection. If we use new database connection, the following dialog box will direct us to the type of database we want to connect using this method. It will guide us to our own data source, which we must encrypt with a password in order to connect to our database.
Through the import function, by clicking the select button, we will be directed to the location where the data are stored. Depending on the circumstances, many types of files can be employed.
After opening the selected file, a dialog box will appear, prompting us to decide which type of file is being imported so the system can adjust. It will help us to decide if we want to import a Microsoft Excel file, a delimited text file, or a fixed text file. There are different styles to choose from: comma, tab, space, and others. This will determine the physical presentation of data. Lastly, we may select a column and define its function by selecting different field types. For example, after importing data, it is automatically classified as a string function, but we may alter it to currency that is appropriate for it, just like, for example, unit price.
So let's start with the menu and toolbar. The Picalo menu options and related toolbar buttons provide access to dialogues that guide you to various Picalo functions. Each time you select an option from the menu, Picalo shows you the related command in the shell. In fact, the menus and dialogues actually just construct Picalo commands and run them for you in the shell. So let's move on to the object tree. This keeps track of all the database connections and tables created in each session. Double-clicking in a table in the list brings up a spreadsheet view in the tab section on the right. Note that tables in the object tree are not automatically saved and are deleted when the program closes. This is done because many routines create hundreds or even thousands of sub-tables. Saving each of these to disk is not practical or desirable, so be sure to save the tables you wish to use again. Next we have is the table or script tabs. The main section of the screen is the top browser of the tables and scripts you have open. Tables show in a spreadsheet-like view. You can use this view to add, remove, modify columns and types, edit cell values, filter data, and view data. Scripts show in editor files and have the typical commands of cut, copy, paste, undo, and redo. Now we have shell, command log, and script output. The shell allows you to type commands one at a time to produce results like running a script one line at a time. In addition, when you run a full script in Picalo, all of the variables created in the script are available in the shell at its completion. This allows you to perform additional commands or inspect result data without having to rerun the entire procedure. Everything you do with the Picalo menu and dialog just translates to a call in the shell. As you navigate the program dialogues, watch the shell to see how Picalo is doing its work. The interface and the shell are two-way, meaning that anything you change in the interface, such as modifying a cell value in a spreadsheet-like view, also changes the shell variables. In like manner, anything you change in the shell variables is immediately reflected in the interface. The shell is an excellent place to perform ad hoc analysis or to test commands. In using Picalo as CAAT, users will have tables made up of different types of columns similar to a database. One of its main goals is to make relational databases easier to use. Once a user has a table, he can add, move, or delete columns, work with notes, select and group records in various ways, and run analysis on tables. Picalo includes adapters for frequently used database types, and it provides a query object that makes queries look the same as regular tables. If the user is using relational databases, delimited files, EBCDIC files, MS Excel files, log files, text files, and other heterogeneous datasets, Picalo has optional project objects that store tables in the ZOP object DB files. Project allows Picalo to work with essentially unlimited amounts of data. Here are the examples of use of Picalo: to analyze financial data, employee data, and purchasing systems for errors and fraud, to import Excel, XML, EBCDIC, CSV, and TSV files into the database, interactively analyzes network events, web server logs, and system login data, import email into a relational or text-based database, and embedding control and testing fraud routinely on production machines. Here are some of the information that users ought to know before using Picalo. First, users can use Picalo for free and make code improvements and share it again with the community. Second, Picalo has no guarantees. There are no guarantees about anything that is done within Picalo. It is possible that this software can eat up user data or even damage the hard drive. All risks are your personal responsibility. Third, the users must release any additions to Picalo under General Public License or GPL. And lastly, Picalo's program code cannot be included or used in any of those products that are licensed other than by the GPL.
Let us take a closer look at the menu tabs and options in the Picalo Audit software and its overall interface this time. Firstly, we have the File menu. Tables and databases rows and columns can be added using the File menu's administration procedures. Table attributes such as column types may be changed, and database connections and queries resulting in tables can be conducted. This is the area where you will import your files. Then, let us see the Edit menu. The Edit menu includes the basic operations and features found in most edit menus, such as copy, cut, paste, find, and replace. Next is the Data menu. The Data menu contains tools for manipulating data within tables using various approaches. The Stratify feature in this menu allows you to divide the table into a list of subtables. For example, you might employ Picalo's Stratify function to divide the sales transaction table into distinct tables for each sales clerk. Furthermore, the summarizing function enables you to recombine stratified tables using summary functions such as sum, average, standard deviation, counts, and so on. Moreover, you may combine tables using the join option. Instead of merely joining when the values match, for instance, Picalo can combine tables using text matching and customs expression. With customs expression, the only limit is your imagination. The Select submenu allows you to select certain rows from tables to analyze. It is useful to filter tables before analysis and to find data within tables. Now, let us proceed with the Analyze menu. The Analyze menu includes options for running specialized tests. The first set of choices on this menu includes basic dataset views. When you initially look at the data collection, you will see descriptives, which give fundamental statistical descriptives on a table such as counts, standard deviations, and column totals. Then, there is digital analysis. It employs Benford's rule of numbers to determine whether or not the values in these columns are natural. Under the Analyze menu, we have the Find submenu. The Find submenu offers audit procedures for locating unordered values, duplicate values in columns, and gaps in sequence. These capabilities can help you find duplicate invoices or payments, missing documents, and sorting issues. You may also use the Find submenu to locate matching and non-matching columns in tables. Furthermore, matching does not link tables together. Rather, it emphasizes matched records. Finding vendors that were recorded per purchases but were not on the approved vendor list is an example of non-matching analysis. Moving on, Picalo is also known for its tool menu, comprising of expressions and the taglex. Expressions are mathematical formulas that perform computations. On rows, columns, or tables. In Picalo, they are provided as strings, such as ID plus 1. Expressions are used in most Picalo functions to specify the value of a newly computed column or to summarize a subset of entries in a table. Although expressions can be difficult to write, Picalo features expression writing shortcuts, such as matching by value and stratifying by date. Expressions in Picalo are supported by an expression builder, which allows you to develop your own mathematical formulas depending on your own requirements. Then, we have the detect lex menu. Picalo's detect lex are one of its unique traits. The detect lex are step-by-step wizard-driven instructions that led you through various analysis. When you open Picalo, it automatically detects the modules you have loaded and adds them to this menu. Detect lex are the solution if you wish to perform a detailed analysis with a simple wizard interface. The following are the functions of detect lex. They are displayed on your screen. Lastly, this audit software also contains a help menu. Check for updates, online Python lesson, introduction, Picalo manual, Picalo cookbook, advanced Picalo manual, readme.txt license the text and show him, and about are all available in the help menu. If you are new to this software, it is recommended that you first read and understand this section.
So now let's take a look at how the Picalo's duplicate function works. As part of our testing, we will create a scenario in which there is the possibility of duplication of work or documents. In our situation, we will use the case when there will be a duplicate payment. Duplicate payments are caused by duplicate invoice posting. It is possible to have duplicate invoice postings when a single invoice received from a vendor is entered into the system more than once. When you make an additional payment to a supplier who has already been paid, you are making a duplicate payment. Difficulties in an organization's accounts payable processes that fails to detect the presence of prior payments result in duplicate payments.
So now, let us take a look at the example situation. In this case, we have numerous transactions and we want to determine if there are any possible duplicate in this table. To do so, we first click the Analyze menu, then select the Find option and select the Duplicate button. As you can see, a mini table will pop up. This mini table contains all of the variables from the previous table. So you can select one or more items to check for the duplicate. For example, I will select supplier invoice, supplier ID, product ID, quantity, and total. So to complete this task, we will rename this text box into duplicates and click OK. As you can see, there is a duplicated item and the last column indicates the specific row that is identical. For example, in this situation, table rows 3405 and 3406 contain similar information including supplier invoice, supplier ID, product ID, quantity, and total. This duplicate payment may have an adverse effect on an organization's accounts payable processes if it is not detected in previous payments. This audit tool lays the groundwork for detecting double payment, which results in inaccurate records. It is critical that transactions are recorded correctly.
Possible reasons for this duplication are, for instance, vendors sending invoices more than once because of the delay in payments or misplacement of invoices, so duplicate invoices might be encoded and consequently paid twice. Or possible human error, wherein invoices posted twice because of the inefficiency or negligence of staff. And another reason for the possibility of duplicate payment is that duplicate invoices posted by staff with an intention to defraud the organization.
For this part, we will conduct an audit regarding the sales transaction of an entity. It is very important that this account is computed correctly and accurately because it is one of the most important measures to determine the profitability and the financial performance of a business. The first step is to go on to the Table Properties dialog box. Check whether each column is in the correct type.
Any differences must be changed to prevent errors in the results. Here, we change the type of sale price and gross sales into currency and decimal numbers respectively. Also, we need to add another column for the testing gross sales. Located at the upper left side of the box, click Add a column, then bring it down using the arrow key button. Rename it by Testing Gross Sales. Notice that this software does not identify a spacebar, so you have to use an underscore to separate each word. Then next, change the type to the calculated field. Click the magic wand button. Here, you will see an expression builder that will allow you to enter formulas relevant to the activity that you are performing. The function and the variables will remain unmodified. However, as you can see at the part of the tables and fields located here on the left side, it shows our data. To check the accuracy of the recorded gross sales of the entity, we need to multiply the sale price by quantity sold. By simply clicking the sale price, then the multiplication button at the top, then double clicks again the quantity. Then click the validate button at the bottom. You will see beside it a note. Your expression appears to be valid. This means that you entered the right expression. Then after this, just click OK and then save. Now, we can see that there is an additional column made beside the gross sales recorded by the entity. The testing gross sales we just computed are considered the correct balance of each item. To check the accuracy of the recorded sales, it must be equal to the testing gross sales, which is previously computed as the product of selling price and quantity. In order for us to do that, we need to identify whether there are some differences between the gross sales recorded by the entity and the testing gross sales we just previously computed. For us to determine the unequal values, simply select Analyze in the menu bar and then select Find. Here you will see several options, but we will go for non-matching by value. This feature will filter the data and will only show you those items that do not match each other. Upon clicking the non-matching value, a dialog box will pop out. Since we are comparing data at the same table, we keep the first table, second table button the same. In the match criteria section, we insert gross sales does not equal testing gross sales. Insert non-matching value or any title you desire in the results the table list section. Then select OK. Here, if the new table appears blank, that means that all items are matched, which concludes to a fact that all these records presented by the entity are accurate and normal. However, in our example, there are items shown in the table. This means that there are 7 items that do not match our computation, meaning it is either improperly computed or there has been an error in the part of the entity that is in need for further correction.
Collecting cash from clients is one of the revenue cycle activities. The following audit procedure in the Picalo software that we will conduct is to test that the cash received date matches the deposit date. This procedure ensures that transactions are properly recorded in the bank. By utilizing banking services, an organization ensures that all monetary transactions such as revenue or sales are routinely tracked. As shown in the screen, these are the data transactions that will be used in the audit procedure with the help of Picalo software. The first column contains the cash receipt ID, the second column incorporates the amount received, the third column represents the status of the transaction if it was approved, the fourth column contains the date when the amount was received, and the final column encompasses the date it was deposited with the bank. Our audit objective is to check that the receipt dates correspond to the deposit dates. The way we could test this procedure is through the use of the expression builder. By clicking the expression builder, another screen will appear. Since we want to check if the receipt date matches the deposit date, we simply double-click on the receipt date on the left side of the screen. Then, we'll click the double equal sign, accompanied by the double-click on the deposit date. As you notice, we've basically created an expression. Simply click the validate before running it. After the process is complete, click the Set tab to view the results on the receipt date that matches up to the deposit date.
And these are the results where the receipt date agree to the date of deposit. Since we already know that several receipt dates agree to deposit dates, how about the transactions that do not match?
In this instance, we could accomplish this procedure by utilizing the Picalo software. Using the same data as the last one, click the expression builder. Then, on the left side of the screen, double-click on the receipt date. Next, we'll click the exclamation point and equal. And finally, double-click the deposit date. This process will validate data transactions that do not match. Click Validate and then click OK. Following the press of the Set button, there are very few transactions or instances in which the receipt date differs from the deposit date.
Testing if the receipt and deposit dates match is critical in this method, as cash and cash equivalents are extremely vulnerable and prone to theft. This procedure must be conducted in order to discover any potential fraud or error. The act of classifying data, people, and objects into distinct groups or layers is referred to as stratification. It is a technique that is used in conjunction with other instruments for data analysis. With thousands and hundreds of datasets, this function assists the auditor in conducting the audit. Now, let's look at how stratification is used in the Picalo software.
As you can see in the data sample, we have our order date, the sales clerk, the product sold, the quantity sold, the unit cost, and total sales in our columns. By selecting data in the menu bar, clicking the term Stratify, and then choose Unique Column Values, another screen would appear. We want to stratify the sales clerk in order to gain a better understanding of their performance and other pertinent information. To do so, simply check the sales clerk column, type the name of the table that should display the results in that result table list tab, and click OK.
As a result, we would be able to view each employee's pertinent and more detailed information. Stratify enables auditors to derive insights from aggregated and grouped data and information.
As you can see, the file that has been imported in this auditing software contains information about original receipt number, product ID number, vendor ID, as well as the sales. Also, this file has only 4 columns and rows, which is less than 100. But as discussed earlier, this Picalo software may audit up to millions of cells, unlike other software which has limitations. So after importing this file and you want to know if there are information that was mistakenly included or has forgotten to include and such, we may now use the detectlets, which is one of the advantages of Picalo. To use the detectlets, simply go to the Tools tab, which is located at the upper left. Choose detectlets and you will see 5 choices. In this situation, we will choose the bid rating. As you can see, the 11 items listed in the bid rating are all related to bidding. Now, we will use the multiple purchases slightly under threshold.
Here, we will click Next. Since we have our own imported file, we don't need the file that Picalo has provided. Next, choose the file you import. After clicking Next, you will see questions which are related to your file. The first question is which column should uniquely identify each product. So, we will choose the product ID number. The next question is which column specifies the bid ID. So, we will choose the original receipt number. Then, the question is which column identifies the bidder. Then, we will choose the customer ID. And in the last question, the question is which column contains the total bid amount? Then we will choose sales. Here, we will put what is the dollar limit for a project before it needs multiple bids. Here, this is the threshold amount set by the company policy. Next, we will put what percentage below the threshold we want to examine. After clicking Finish, there are information that will pop up stating the results of the detectlets. As you can see, these 5 transactions with an original receipt number ending 16, 25, 56, 72, and 73 were found based on what we are looking. Since we entered that our dollar limit is 80,000 pesos and the percentage below the threshold that we want to examine is 10%, this table shows all bids that were slightly below the threshold amount. Also, we will notice the negative amounts in the threshold difference column. Here, if the amount is negative, it symbolizes that the bid amount or the sales is greater than our dollar limit, which is 80,000. However, positive amounts in this column symbolizes that the bid or the sales are less than our dollar limit but is greater than the 10% that we want to examine, which is 72,000. Therefore, given the customer ID, we can now trace who are the customers that we need to investigate.
As it mentioned earlier, Picalo has the feature called detectlets, and it is one of the advantages of Picalo compared to other audit software. I will show you one of the under features of detectlets. Let's say we will find whether the stated purchases pass the given limit or threshold set by the company. If there are, this may indicate that certain personnel who do the purchase might be related to the supplier from where the purchase was bought. And given the volume of the transaction, we cannot see it ourselves. This is where Picalo will be very helpful. This is the software appearance of Picalo after we import our needed file. To start the process, click the Tools button on the toolbar and then select Detectlets. From then, we will see the under features of Detectlets. There are Time Engine, Bid Rigging, and Phantom Vendors. From these three, we will choose Bid Rigging, and then we can see the different things that it offers like Bid Summary by Vendor, Last Bidder Winner, Winning Bid Not Lowest Bid, and Single Bid Projects in excess of threshold, in which we will click for us to perform the process. After that, we can see a note of the Picalo software and then click the next button, which will lead us to choose which file we are going to process. Click the file and click the next button. And then we will click the supplier's invoice number because it is where the records are located or it serves as the contract. After that, click the next button. And then we will choose the product ID first and click the next button. And then we will choose customer ID and then next. And we will see the final step where we will choose on which column the amount is located, so we will click the purchases. We will now state the limit or the threshold of the money that is spent on the purchases. Type the amount, which in this case is 100,000. And then click the next button. And lastly, type a file name of the result like excess invoice, and then click Finish. And it will lead us to the end result of the process. Listed here are the invoices that pass the threshold given in terms of the purchases. Let's try to check whether the result is correct. Let's find the product 15, customer 7 in the original file. Product 15, customer 7. The amount is more than 100,000, so the result is correct. Present only one of many different features offered by the detectlets that will greatly benefit the company.